Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. For our very first newly retooled off-week blowout extravaganza podcast, we'll be discussing the first 3 episodes of SNL's 48th season, hosted by Miles Teller, Brendan Gleeson, and Megan the Stallion. I'm your host, Katherine Coleman, and I'm joined this week by fan-favorite podcast sidekicks Steve Finn and Pat Riley. You can follow Pat at NotPatRiley, and you can find us on Twitter at SNL Podcast. To get early access to all of our Season 48 coverage, head over to patreon.com/SNL Podcast. It's our patrons who make this show possible, and we are so thankful to everyone who's already come on board. All right, here we go. Hey guys, how's it going?
Howdy, strangers. How was everybody's summer?
I went to the beach.
Y'all have good times in the summertime?
Yeah. We did. I've been seeing a lot of Patrick recently. We've been working on a sketch show together.
That's true.
We've had a big summer.
Yeah, we've been working and writing for like the last 2 months or so. We've been seeing each other at least once a week. And I gotta say, Katherine, it's enough. We gotta... Just too much of a good thing.
That's fair.
It's been fun watching you guys work from afar, getting back into live sketch work after such a long time away. It must feel great.
Steve, how was your summer?
Well, I had a lot of healing to do, so I've been waiting for this jaw to get better. I'm doing a lot better now in terms of being post-surgery. Still got some numbness, but, my mouth is kind of working again. It's not bonded together by rubber bands anymore. So it's been slow, but been getting better every day.
There's a glow to you, Steve. I'll say that.
That's what people
when you
are
came
telling
on,
me.
I immediately was just like, look at him, happy, sure of himself, And
what that really is just Steve is fully oxygenated for the first time in his life.
That's true. Steve could finally breathe correctly, and it's really doing wonders for him.
Jury's still out on that, but I should be at least improved a little bit.
Cool. Well, so I know we did a little update a couple weeks ago about we're changing up the podcast. It's we're not doing weekly sketch by sketch reviews anymore. So we've got a little something new to do tonight. And what that's gonna look like is we're going to go through each episode. We're going to talk kind of generally about the host, and then we've each picked one sketch from each episode that we're itching to discuss. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of that. We'll bat it around just like normal. And then we're going to zoom out a little bit. We're going to talk about the run as a whole. We're going to talk about our featured players, our repertory players. How are the writers doing? What about the musical guests? All that stuff. And mixed all in there, we've got patron questions, Twitter feedback, etc. to bat around. So yeah, this is what we're gonna try this month. We'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work, it'll be different next month. It's gonna be a little of a learning process here as we change the format. So never hesitate to let us know how you're feeling, listeners.
Please
like, comment, subscribe, and please give us open and honest feedback directed specifically to John only.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like I'm in a sandbox today because we really could, kind of start from scratch and see what happens. And we're asking people if they like our sandcastles, I guess. See if we should keep building them that way. But yeah, we can get creative.
What a beautiful metaphor.
What a beautiful metaphor. We're about to talk about some of the stupidest things I've ever seen on screen. But yeah, let's build sandcastles in the sand.
I love that. All right, well, you guys ready to dive in?
Well, yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, up first, episode 1, Miles Teller and Kendrick Lamar. Let's talk about this host. What did we think? Was it a good booking? Did he prove himself? How'd he do in general? Patrick, what do you think?
I will say, this is his first time hosting. Am I correct?
Correct.
Right? As a first time host, he did a great job. It's a joke in one of the sketches, I think in the cold open, that hosts don't normally get to ask to be in the cold open. Right. It's very rare you see a host there. And I think that was indicative of what a great sport he was. He was game for all the sketches. He did some weird sketches this episode. And overall, I think I can't wait to see next year when Miles Teller is in some big blockbuster movie and he gets to host again, because I think he did a great job.
Yeah. And I think this was like a very solid booking choice. You know, Top Gun was a huge movie. He was having a moment. He had his little dancing gif, you know. And sure, like, would Tom Cruise be like the bigger get? Yes. But does he come with all of his own baggage? Absolutely. So, like, I like that they picked someone like different and new. It feels more exciting. So.
And yeah, I feel like Miles Teller is part of that new class of actor, like Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, the others. What's her name from Don't Worry, Darling? Tom Holland, Florence Pugh. Yeah, like there's like that new class of actors where they've done all their art house films and now they're finally breaking out into mainstream big time movies. So now we're seeing like Florence Pugh's in the MCU, and Miles Teller was in Top Gun, which is one of the biggest movies of the year. And I think we're getting to that point now where it's like, all right, well, let's put them in SNL. Let's see them on, do game shows on Jimmy Fallon, come like that. So like,
exactly.
If this is indicative of what the booking's going to be in the season, I'm looking forward to who else is going to host.
Now, is it indicative? Time will tell. We'll dive into that later in the podcast.
I will say this is the weirdest 3 hosts I've ever been grouped together. Like, just to hear their names together makes me go, ooh, what?
Yeah.
Brand new sentence.
Yeah, I mean, and then Miles showed up. He put on the Charmin Bear suit. What more could you ask for? So,
oh, yeah.
Steve, what'd you think?
Oh, yeah. I really liked Miles as a host. And of the people you could pick, that was, an unsurprising choice. This was a really great one to go with. So, yeah, it does tick those boxes of, like, an actor from the blockbuster of the summer. Very common thing to start with for the season. I think Miles, being from that pool of actors to select from, this was one of the better choices because he came not to just say funny lines written for him. I felt like he came on that show and really wanted to earn his laughs and actually, be a source of comedy in his performance, not just stand there and parrot the jokes. He really showed an aptitude for comedy.
Yeah, and we can get into it in more detail, but like the Peyton Manning impression was good.
I'll be honest, it took me a minute to realize it wasn't actually Peyton Manning. I had to notice the seam coming loose in the wig to be like, oh, that's not actually him.
Well, fair enough. Let's talk about some of these sketches. So up first is Steve's pick from this episode. Instead of Monday Night Football, the Manning brothers decide to provide commentary on SNL's season premiere.
Okay, I guess I gotta defend my choice. I picked it because while we've seen similar iterations of this kind of idea before, I think this one worked a little better. I think it's a difficult thing to do, especially when you're doing it live. But when you think back to like the Dave Chappelle post-sketch conference, and compared to that, there's a few things I like better in how they did it this time around, because they still have the commenting, on the behind the scenes of sketch work going on at SNL. But this time around, it's more like a live play-by-play as it's happening. See, the thing about the Chappelle one is that you had to get through a very large, awkward portion that's segmented by itself, and then you get to the commentary afterwards. So you're kind of like wondering what you're watching for a while, which I think hurt the effectiveness of that sketch. So we see something that's more live and done more back and forth, which I feel has a better rhythm for live. But yeah, it was. I think this is my favorite sketch with that goes to this length of reflexivity to land its jokes, and I just thought it was a lot of fun, especially Bowen. I thought Bowen really hammed up the awkwardness of it, and really played with that timing, of having to like kind of sit there for a couple of seconds and stare at the camera. All of that lended itself to just make it even more awkward and more cringeworthy, which is exactly what they were going for. So, great execution.
Yeah. A thing that I had written down to say is like the main point here is like Bowen's performance. He just played every emotion of it so clearly and just so palpably, and it just really made his part shine in a way that none of the other players were doing. So that was really interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed the sketch. I touched on it a little in the last episode, but I just thought it was a really strong start to the season. It was like showing a ton of creativity. It was showing a lot of self-awareness. Unfortunately, I don't think it followed through in the next 2 episodes, but it was really exciting. Like in the moment, I was like, "Oh, are we going to like? Are they becoming aware? Are they going to take in this criticism that's being thrown at them from every direction? And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But in the moment, like, it was exciting. I thought this was a really, really creative use, and I thought it was a really high energy start to the season. Like I was excited to see the rest of the episode as soon as this ended. So high marks for me. Patrick, what did you think?
Same. I really enjoyed the sketch. I gotta say, like, to the point about Bowen being kind of, I think Michael also did such a great job closing the door again, not knowing what to do. It was so funny, and that was probably the hardest time I laughed during the sketch was when they do the commentary of like, oh, and here comes the new feature player. He will have the "right this way, ma'am" line, and there it is. And he will exit, and he forgot to shut the door. Oh no, he fumbled the door. And him awkwardly standing at the door, not what he also, I think, has proved himself, kind of like how for me last season Andrew Dismukes proved himself. Where like Michael, and later in this episode too, he'll have a weekend update bit, but he's someone who's slowly becoming like a that guy for me, where I see that guy in a sketch and I go, I like him. I also loved Sarah was just being weird behind a window. Mm-hmm. What an enjoyable woman, insane person, pure chaos. Because the line was, oh, and look, Sarah's peeking through the window. But what Sarah was doing was trying to get her fingies all the way through, like a psychopath, because she's insane.
I also love that just in her second season, Sarah is a known enough quantity that they make that joke and it totally lands.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's keep moving. The next one, a bank robbery goes awry when it's time to be real. Patrick, this was your pick. What'd you like about it?
Well, listen, I'm an old man, all right? I'm an old man. I chop wood, I read newspapers. I'm an old man. I did not know what Be Real was. I knew that people were tweeting about it.
Because you are chronically online.
Yes.
And you didn't know what it was.
No idea. I thought Be Real was a meme that I missed because I just saw the memes first and I was like, oh, some idiot must have done something. That's pretty funny because all I would see was just like a picture of RuPaul and then, a picture of like a toilet. And I'm like, oh, that's funny, I guess. Just the idea of them together. I didn't know what Be Real was until I saw this thing and they explained it to me and I was like, oh, that's what it is. But this sketch does one of my favorite things, which is when a character in a stressful situation completely breaks and just goes, oh, this is pretty cool, actually. You would really like this. And I think that's so funny when Mikey Day is on the floor and he's like, oh, you don't know Be Real? Oh, it's actually a pretty good app. You should download it right now. It's fun. Oh, it's not Mikey Day. Who's the one on the floor?
Bowen.
Because Bowen. It was Bowen, that's right. Because Mikey was the other robber. So Bowen has that moment where they just kind of like break everyone breaks for a second and everyone's just having fun. Miles Teller is honestly really funny in this. He has one of my other favorite kind of like SNL sketch tropes that they've been doing lately is the sincere moment of the sketch where a character says something very sincere and it's the stupidest thing you've ever heard. I love that. It makes me laugh every time. And when he says a moment just like, no, I need to be real. And everyone's just kind of like agreeing with him. And it's in the middle of a bank robbery. So funny.
Yeah, I really like this one too. I am on Be Real, and I do. I enjoy it. I don't know. I don't like browse it a lot. Like I'm not looking at other people's Be Reals. I just kind of post mine and move on. So I don't really know what the point is. But nonetheless, I thought this was a standout from the episode for sure because I think it captured the phenomenon of Be Real. It put it in a place where the stakes were really high. And, like Patrick just said, it explained what Be Real is so that it's not totally just an in-joke. But they explained it in a way that it was still funny. So, like, when Andrew Dismuke says, like, when Miles asks, do y'all work for Be Real? And Andrew says, no, we're just really aligned with the mission of the app. That's hilarious. So, yeah, I thought this was really tight and really great. And it showed this like socially aware topical side of SNL that can be good and can be on the forefront and like actually very funny without just rehashing something that Twitter's already done, you know? So yeah, Steve, was it a winner for you?
Absolutely. Coming from the same darkness as Patrick when it comes to Be Real, I don't even know if it's available up here in the old Canada because I literally do not know one person to ever mention it or use it or show it to me. Anybody I've asked doesn't know what it is either, but I guess it has a following. That's why I'm just so glad this sketch over explains it to comic effect, which kind of helps to make it time proof. You know, like if Be Real.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
you know, if
it does.
If they were right in prophesizing a quick death in a couple of months, anybody going back to watch this as a rerun has a crash course built in to know what the hell everyone's talking about. So yeah, but what made it work for me was, I guess, Miles' character's investment in it. The more he hears about it, the more he's immediately connecting with, the the urgency of the app and the dread of your friends finding out you're not being real, and just how much weight there was to those beats for him. Only heightened by the actual situation that they're in.
Cool. Well, it's great news that I'm the coolest one on this podcast right now because I'm on Be Real and y'all aren't. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. Nicole Kidman tells us all the ways that AMC makes movies better. Now, this one is my pick, but I know Patrick has many, many, many thoughts on it. So
he's repeating his mantra to himself right now.
I'm just trying to hold back my anger.
Oh, wow.
Listen, I never understood why people got so handsy about Jesus. You know, I never understood like when people were like mad when you made fun of something religious until this moment where I straight up was like, I'm going to burn this to the ground. How dare they say that about my God? I go to AMC movies probably at least twice a week, sometimes 3 times. I have what we in the business call a problem. I love that Nicole Kidman ad. It makes me so happy. The only time I ever feel truly safe in this world is when I hear other people mouth the words along with it. That's where I'm like, I'm in a happy place. I trust these people around me. You know, I'm not going to get gay bashed. And then it just watching this. My problem with this is there's so many funny things to make fun of this thing. And they hit a thing in this sketch that I think really would be funny is just have Kenan Thompson be there and be like, what is happening? And I feel like it was just, they just said the words from what was like, they didn't change a lot until about a minute and a half in.
I think that's what's so funny about it.
Oh, but
because
then
that's
it's just
how
like,
ridiculous the ad is.
I know how ridiculous the ad is, but like you can't make fun of. It's like isn't this ridiculous? They were basically going like, isn't this ridiculous? Instead of like commenting on why. I expected better from SNL because I was looking forward. I think Chloe Feynman does a perfect Nicole Kidman, but you know. So Katherine, why did you like this?
So what's interesting is everything you just said is a reason you didn't like it is a reason that I did like it.
Ah, okay. Well,
And I'll start this by saying we did have a little bit of patron feedback from Grace Kogan, and I'm going to summarize it. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit, but basically, what this is there's this Nicole Kidman AMC ad. If you haven't watched it by now, I don't know what to tell you. Go watch it. And what it became sort of a meme because it just has a ridiculous script, and it became there was one in particular, and I do think this was when I was first made aware of it, as I saw on Twitter that like the story was that someone like actually put in the seats of an AMC theater little like cutout papers with the words of the ad on it, and it was like, when you see a shoe step in a puddle, please stand and recite this along with me, and then like had the words of the ad. And that was sort of, to me, like, and I think probably a lot of other people, the origin of like the AMC ad memes. So I do think it sort of blew up over the summer, so I think like it was this thing where like, yeah, they had to do something with it. And I actually think what they did right was that I don't think they put a lot of work into it, but they weren't trying too hard. Like it was what it was. It took the AMC ad as is, every ridiculous word. They added in like personification and layers of like the memes that have been made. So like you see a joke about like standing and saluting, but they're like, yeah, this is what it would look like if people did that. Isn't that funny? And then they made it look professional. They made it look legit, and they gave the internet like their own jokes back, but in like this perfectly wrapped package with a beautiful bow on it, but with their own fingerprint. Like I don't think it was just like purely rehashing the news. Like we'll get into a different sketch later. Like, because I think they did avoid those pitfalls, but I think, I don't know, to me, it was like the perfect way to just like take an internet culture thing, add SNL's touch to it, add production value, and just be topical and relevant, grab something in the zeitgeist, and do it up the way that literally only SNL has the budget to do. And that's like just like part of what I love about the show. And so I thought I was crying, laughing. I will say that my brother texted me and was like, I don't get it. And I said, you have to watch the ad. They didn't change a word. And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, exactly. And so Steve, were you familiar with the ad, and what did you think of the sketch?
Well, no, I haven't seen that ad, but you watch this sketch and you're like, this has to be doing something specific, something with Nicole Kidman in it. It looked very stylized, and it just gave itself away. This is something out there. I went and found a side-by-side comparison, and it sounds like you guys are right, where it's quite literally line for line, shot for shot, maybe some exaggerations here and there, but they definitely captured the cinematography and blocking and all that. I noticed that the side by side, the original side of it cut out when she started levitating like a witch, and so I'm assuming that's where it started to deviate. But this is what I'm feeling like. Part of what this sketch is saying is like, doesn't this feel like this is where it's going? When you watch this sketch, aren't you just like a little bit, uncomfortable for some reason? Is there some sense of dread that you're feeling you can't really explain? Yeah, I feel like people just wrote their feelings into this sketch, and this feels like a logical development to the ominous atmosphere that this commercial has created.
All right, well, we got to keep moving on. We got 2 more episodes to get through. So let's talk about Brandon Gleeson. What did we think of this host selection, Steve?
Well, it was certainly unexpected. Not really the name you would expect to see pop up on the marquee between Megan Thee Stallion and Miles Teller. But it's
by
not
marquee,
like the guy...
you mean set of index cards.
Right, exactly. Pinned up on a corkboard. It's not like he's not prolific or doesn't do high high caliber films. It's just he's normally a character actor that's second or third billing, one of those that guy people. But hey, I mean, Danny Aiello hosted back in the day, and there's been a lot of people that have just had a somewhat successful career. Just never reached super A plus 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 level. You could even argue his son is a little bit of a bigger name than he is now.
Yeah.
But like Miles Teller, he was there to promote a movie. And like Miles Teller, he brought a couple of cast members along to help do that. Maybe people with a slightly bigger name than himself. But so it was great to have Brendan on. Even if he wasn't like the greatest host, like he had one of those endearing awkwardness type of vibes to him, which SNL knows how to use. Like I feel like they approached Brendan Gleeson's hosting to like your Robert De Niro's and other, accomplished actors, but in a totally different wheelhouse and visibly struggles to do this side of the things. And it's limited, but it's always fun with what you can do. And they really played into it with like the posing for glamour photos or just slapping the dress on. There's all the tried, trusted to and true go-to things they do for these types of hosts.
Very, very interesting. I thought it was a weird pick. I saw the name. I said, I have no idea who that person is. And then someone on Reddit said Mad Eye Moody, and I said, that guy? So I didn't recognize the name at all. But yeah, and then even once I knew who he was, I was like, all right, weird choice. But I think it seemed like he showed up ready to have a good time. Seemed like he was a good sport. I overall felt like the writers didn't really know what to do with him, and they just sort of were like, all right, we'll have him like pose because I don't really trust him to say lines. It felt, it felt like they were as confused as I was. So I don't know. Ultimately, it was far from my favorite episode. Pat, what did you think of Brendan Gleeson? Obviously, you're a huge fan.
I am a huge fan. I really love his work. It's a crazy pick. It is a crazy pick for them to go. Because it's like the movie he's promoting also isn't like the big Christmas movie. It's a art house film that is up for the Oscars. Like that's what he's doing. Like I listen. I already have my tickets to see Banshees of Inisheer. I'm seeing it Sunday. I've been looking forward to it. It has been probably my most anticipated movie of the year because Martin McDonagh is one of my favorite writers, and it's bringing back the two leads of In Bruges, which is one of my favorite movies. That being said. Why is he hosting SNL for that? It is a comedy, but it's an Irish dark comedy, which means it's probably if there's one thing I know about Martin McDonagh is he knows how to make you feel super uncomfortable and then say something that is pretty funny, So it's weird that he was even hosting at all. That being said, I felt like he did the best he could. I don't think the writers, I think Katherine, I think you hit it on the head. I don't think the writers knew what to do with him. So they kept giving him weird stuff, and I think he did the best he could.
Cool. Well, let's talk about these sketches. Up first, the ancient ritual of the blood oath has messy consequences when this man slices into his hand like a steak. Pat, why'd you pick this one?
Well, I feel like this was Brendan Gleeson's strongest sketch of the night because it was, I think, the only sketch that he did where it wasn't like, what do we do with this old man? I think this was the only sketch where it's like, oh, this is a Brendan Gleeson type character, and now he's just being silly. And I think his timing is really funny. I think the fact that what he really does well, which I feel like a lot of hosts don't do, and you can tell it when an actor is hosting opposed to a personality or a celebrity. When an actor is hosting, they are acting the scene, and he was acting the scene because he starts to immediately go, oh, second he cuts into his hand, he starts to in the background, you could see him kind of wincing and he's probably just trying to get the hose down to his wrist, whatever. But he does a really good job conveying how much pain he's in, and listen. Am I a dumb little boy? Yes. Am I always going to laugh when they make a mess? Yeah, and they made a big mess, guys. And seeing a hose of blood shoot Mikey Day and Chloe Feynman in the face, and Chloe's genuine reaction of her being like the second it hits her face, she just starts like it's fun, you know.
Yep.
You get excited when you see that everyone's having fun in a sketch. Is it the tightest written sketch? No. Is it like good? Is it up for the Oscars? No. But did I laugh the whole time? I laughed my ass off. It was so much fun.
Yeah, this was really enjoyable. It's always fun, like you said, when things get messy. It feels chaotic. It makes you remember that like this is all happening live. And I think this is as good of a justification as any to use a hose full of blood. I think it's a fun idea that allows them to get messy. There's something there. Now, once he's bleeding profusely and he's squirted blood all over the map, there's not really anywhere to go. There's not a whole lot more heightening happening. So, yeah, from a writing perspective, it's not a lot going on. But was it fun? Sure. And isn't that, at the end of the day, really the point? So, yeah, Steve, what'd you think?
Well, this is a classic gag that we just have to get every couple of years. I mean, it's written into the constitution of the show, I believe. You just got to make a mess sometimes because, lowbrow humor is humor too, and we should not discriminate. We can all make us laugh. We can all make us have fun. It was a great use for Brendan, and let me just say, I think this is a good token of trust that they've shown Brendan here. You say they didn't know what to do with him. They at least gave him the responsibility of being the sprayer in one of these spraying sketches because honestly, you're trusting that person to spray in the right direction at the right time, and maybe you point your forearm in the right place, but you weren't paying attention, and the hose is now this way. So everything's written, and every moment is supposed to happen at a certain time. So when Chloe stands there and goes, because she's supposed to be getting hit in the face, you better hope she's actually getting hit in the face because it's supposed to be happening. And nothing's more awkward when you're standing there pretending to get hit by something and you're not actually getting hit by it. So there's a level of risk that I think helps me feel tense and ready to laugh with these sketches because I just know that it can just suck the air out of it in a second if something goes wrong.
Very good. Let's keep going.
Yep.
This woman got brand new eyeballs. And yes, of course they made her vision worse. I picked this one. A minute ago I said that Blood Oath didn't offer much past the reveal of the blood, right? But this sketch, I think, is a masterclass on having a really funny prop, costume, makeup, whatever, and then continuing to heighten and add on and on and on because she could have looked up and had the crazy eyes and the rest of the sketch just been her moving her head funny. But no, like they added new beats. They said, well, I can get my old eyes back as long as I refrigerate them. Oh no, I didn't refrigerate them. Yes, of course my vision's worse. Like it just kept adding new layers. And
I believe the line wasn't, oh no, I didn't refrigerate them. It was, oh no, that, oh no, is one of the funniest noises I've heard in years. And I'm gonna let you get back to it. But I just was saying, like it's not just, oh no, I didn't refrigerate them. It's, oh no, Do you think they're okay? Do you think they're
Can you
okay?
smell them? Yeah. Like a creative way to do the beat. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a really great example of like, if this is true, what else is true? And just brilliantly performed by Sarah Sherman. So just a huge knock it out of the park. This was the far and away the highlight of the night for me. Steve, what'd you think of it?
So much to love and so much to appreciate. Because when you look at the bare bones of this thing, there's some very classic setups going on here. Like, I think we've all seen a sketch that involves someone getting some kind of procedure or work done or a new article of clothing, something that's supposed to be a grand statement and ends up being more harm than it is good. You know, maybe we've seen something like that before. And Sarah's doing these things, but adding just, peppering it with decomposing organs and other things just to raise these gross factors that are very signature Sarah. So I like that she's taking, recognizable comedy beats and just, adding another flavor of grossness to her. It shows longevity, and it shows that she can really go the full mile with SNL. So hopefully we get her for a good long time, because she's definitely up for it. I just want to say I appreciate the makeup for this, because they didn't just slap on two googly eyes. They really worked on making the skin around it blend in with the eyes, so you actually buy the idea that she had these medically inserted, and they're not just taped on, they're actually part of her face now. And that body horror of it all is just so creepily effective. I love it. And yeah, I think this was probably one of the more fun sketches. I don't know if Brendan Gleeson knew what kind of accent he was trying to do. He seemed to start American and went to, I don't know, half Irish. But that's just an observation. I don't even want to complain about that, because it's so...
I'll complain about the voice. It took me out of it. It
Did
was
it really?
very weird.
I didn't even know it was worth mentioning.
No. I was going to bring it up, so I'm glad you did. Great sketch all around. I thought it was a lot of fun. Very silly. Crazy silly. What I expect from Sarah Sherman. But the voice that he did, I am an American businessman. This is how American businessmen sound. And it was just like, why don't you just make him Irish, and we just, not everyone can do accents. I can't, I can't do accents,
Right.
I'm not good. Katherine, you know this.
I was about to say, I don't know. That Cockney accent's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've come see the show. I play Tom Nook, but with a Cockney accent. But do I keep the accent? No. I slowly become Michael Caine, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm not on SNL. They haven't asked me yet. All right. But Brendan Gleeson, it was so just weird sounding that I did spend the first few seconds of the sketch going like, is this part of it? Is this gonna come up? Oh, it's not? Oh, that's just his choice? Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was a choice, just kind of forgetting to try. Which is funny, because he just played Trump to some acclaim, I believe. I've never seen it, but it's not like he hasn't played Americans.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great.
Sure. All right. So I loved it. Steve loved it. Patrick got really lost in the accent.
I did love it, but I got stuck in the weeds.
Happens to the best of us. Let's talk about our next pick from the Brendan Gleeson episode. Marilyn Monroe's fan mail readers come in to get that whore ready to dance. Steve, why'd you pick this one?
I just wanted to highlight it because I think it's a really special thing that Heidi brings to the show, and I feel like she has a really great eye for catching moments out of popular film and television that are not meant to be funny in the way that they are, and then highlighting that in a way that's true to the source, but also taking what's funny about it and making it the forefront. Only Heidi would watch a documentary about Michael Jordan and say, I want to make a sketch about this silly looking security guard. Yeah, she has such an eye for it, and it's a great example of how you just have to be on top of things when you work for SNL. You can't go home and listen to Led Zeppelin and watch Goodfellas. You have to be somewhat timely in how you consume your media, because that's a big part of what SNL does. And Heidi is just so great at watching things and immediately seeing something that she can bring to SNL that week. I hadn't seen the movie, but I did watch that scene afterwards, finding out where it came from. And
Yeah.
yeah, that voice just being so specific, like I had a feeling that she was harping on something straight out of the movie. But
it's a weird moment in the movie that the movie definitely hates Marilyn Monroe, and that's very clear throughout the entire film. But there's a moment in the movie where there's just a scene where they go, "Listen, you fat whore," like, and it's just like, why is this part of it? Did they really do this to this poor woman? I thought did this happen? Like, why would, if this didn't happen, why did your mind go there? You know, and it's a great parody of that. Yeah.
My take on the sketch is that you're right. Heidi does something wonderful here, but this one in particular, I didn't really love. There's stuff to like within the sketch. Like, there's nothing technically wrong with it. It had a clear game. It had solid beats. I love the heightening move of like, well, why don't we just say flower instead of whore? And then they have a little lightning round where they say flower a bunch. Like, I think that's really fun. But having not seen Blonde, I didn't feel like there was enough set up for me to be like, oh, this is a thing in the movie that they're making fun of. Whereas with the Last Dance one, I hadn't seen that, but there was enough. I mean, honestly, like kind of deep faking and like clips from the documentary that I felt I got it, you know. And this one, I don't think did quite as good of a job of that. So I think that's maybe a part of it, and that's on me. They're making fun of a pop culture thing that I didn't get. You know, not everyone's on Be Real. But yeah, I mean, there's things to like here, but I think I just didn't quite get it. Pat, since you have seen the movie, I know you talked a little bit, but did you enjoyed the sketch or?
No, I agree. I feel like it's not that it's a bad sketch. I feel like it is kind of it's a moment in the movie where it's like, well, what the f-? But as a sketch, it's kind of like it's stuff they've done before. They've done this kind of premise before. It's just now in kind of like a Marilyn Monroe coat. And I mean, I didn't love the sketch, but I didn't hate the sketch. It definitely wasn't, it wouldn't be my moment of the night, for example. But it was still, enjoyable.
Now, we've covered all of our picks from the Brendan Gleeson episode. However, Ben on Patreon made a special request that we discuss the worst sketches in the run. So we gotta talk about the Try Guys sketch.
Is that considered the worst?
Certainly the most controversial.
Yeah.
Where to start? Patrick, you start.
All right. So, Try Guys. What really happened with this sketch where I think they really screwed up is the point of view of the sketch. And I don't know if you guys know that Bowen just talked about this on the last episode of Las Culturistas.
Oh, I did not know. So
Bowen talked about it, and I still don't think Bowen gets why people are mad. Because Bowen was talking about how, yeah, I guess all the fans and the Try Guys sent their fans after him, which is not what happened. The Try Guys have not mentioned it, like as
that's
like
not
a
entirely
group.
true.
Well, yeah, Keith said that was weird, but other than that, the Try Guys have not gone into detail talking about SNL. So that is not what happened. What happened was the point of view of the sketch is these guys fired that other guy because he cheated on his wife, which we are living in a post-Me Too society. That's not okay because that's not what happened. The guy was a boss, the subordinate, and also did damage to the brand because his whole branding is I love my wife, I'm a family guy, and he just threw his way his marriage for someone who works for him. So the power dynamic's off. So that's what actually happened. And the fact that SNL was making fun of them for feeling bad about that is why everyone on the internet was like, oh, you guys, that's no. We're not, that's not okay. That is not why we're talking about this, you know?
Yeah, they whiffed it big time. Because what the sketch did right was that interesting thing to talk about how it blew up from like I feel like most people. Obviously, the Try Guys are very popular on YouTube, but the average person has no idea what a Try Guy is, and the fact that
100%.
it became so huge over this scandal was like crazy. Like literally, I feel like I couldn't escape it. And so to comment on that, great. Like I think the angle of like CNN interrupting White House coverage to talk to the Try Guys is hilarious.
I completely agree.
What they did wrong is they accidentally, somewhere in there, I think accidentally, some people think on purpose,
Yeah.
and as a way to justify the sketch, said, "Oh, it's not a big deal," because they wanted to hammer home this thing's being talked about so much and it's just really not that big of a piece of news, but they justified the sexual harassment of it instead of justifying like, yeah, these guys are just YouTube celebrities.
Yeah. They went the wrong direction. That's where I think they went. They went the wrong direction.
They just took a wrong turn in there.
Another thing Bowen was talking about on his podcast in kind of defense of this. So apparently, and this was a scandal in the Try Guy online community, Ned knows some writers from SNL. And what I don't think the kids who like Try Guys get is if you are a comedian in LA or New York, you know someone who works on SNL.
Right.
I know several people who work on SNL. Katherine, you know several people who work on SNL. It just happens. I don't think there was a cabal where Ned's college friend wrote the sketch. He might have been a writer on the sketch, but on SNL sketches, how the sketches are written, like they're written in kind of like dog piles. Like Katherine and I, we just wrote together for like the last month. I mean, there's so many sketches where we're like, perfect example. Katherine has a very funny sketch about the hint of lime lawyers, where it's like lawyers for people who think that there's too much lime in the hint of lime chips. Best line in that sketch, I think, was written by another writer in it. It's a fact of lime, not a hint of lime. Yep. And that's the funniest line. And that's just how it works, like you pitch jokes and other writers, you all kind of write together. So like to say like he wrote the sketch or because his name is on it, he probably pitched a bit in the sketch. I don't think he was purposely like, well, my friend Ned, let's take him down. I don't think SNL gives that much of a to be completely honest. I also
think even if he pitched it and wrote it, I feel like there's just a whole misunderstanding of what anything means because they're like, they follow each other on Instagram. It's like, there's people from college that I follow and follow me back on Instagram that I do not keep up with and would not put my job on the line to defend. Like, I think, I really think that they were writing the sketch. They had a joke they wanted to make about how big a deal it was, and they just justified it the wrong way, and it just didn't go well. I really, really do not believe there was any great movement to defend Ned specifically. So
yeah,
I think we've said our piece on the Try Guys. Let's move on to Megan Thee Stallion.
Woo!
Patrick, how do you think Meg did?
I love it. I thought she did great. I love Megan Thee Stallion as like a personality. I don't love her music. Her music's not just not for me. But she's so funny to almost a level where I'm like, you know what? She did a great job. I can never see Megan Thee Stallion hosting again, but I could see her making appearances again. I can see her when she's a musical guest, which she probably will be in the future. Like she can come and like do a sketch or two. Yep. But for a first-time host and for someone who's not known for this, the fact that she this year did that and She-Hulk, fantastic, right? Just really great.
Yeah. I was excited about this booking. I think a lot of personality comes with Megan Thee Stallion. I think like this is a host that is very easy to know what to do with in a lot of ways, right? And I think they showed us like a lot of these sketches had like similar themes. Some of the sketches were maybe hit and miss for me, but I was happy with Meg. Steve, what do you think?
I suppose she did okay. There was never a moment that I was thinking, oh, Megan's just doing such an amazing job of hosting this show. I get it. I think she has a personality, that is marketable. I'm not a listener of her music either. I know that she's popular, and I can kind of see the appeal when I watch her. I feel like she gave a sincere effort. I just it's just very apparent that this is not what she normally does.
Now, worth noting, we're two white people and one Puerto Rican man. So maybe every one of these sketches we're not the perfect target audience for. So I would like to highlight my friend Sharice Foster said that like the girls sketch was just like a really big important moment. She was like it was really great for me to see so many sketches about my culture. So like I think that is maybe an important thing to consider in how we felt about her episode overall, is that some of these sketches just weren't targeted at us, and that's fine. So yeah, good representation for Meg the Stallion to be on. And so let's talk about the sketches. Let's see how she did. Up first, it's butt day at Studio Thick Thighs, but don't worry, there's pancake ass modifications if you need them. And so yeah, this was my pick. I'll say that this one's interesting. It's a good time. It has some really great moments, but I also just have a lot of questions about it. So while I like it, it's a mixed review. The good things are perfect use of the host. Great lines for like the no butt exercises, like drop it high, sag the ass. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Wonderful performances from Heidi and Chloe. But the bad, and I say the bad, ignoring all of the technical missed camera cues of the live version, talking only about the uploaded dress rehearsal version. There was just some off things. Their eye lines were all over the place. Bowen and Sarah are looking over here at Heidi and Chloe, and Meg's looking over there at them. Meg's looking over here at Bowen and Sarah, and Bowen and Sarah are looking straight on. Like, the layout was confusing. That's pretty minor. That's something that 99% of the audience is not going to notice. But the biggest flaw is the voice of reason characters are upset, but they have absolutely no reason to be upset, because they're saying lines like, I wish I hadn't paid a year in advance for this, but they're getting exactly what they paid for. Megan the Stallion is still teaching them how to have a fat ass. But they're just mad that there's also like these modifications. So they're really losing nothing. And so they're getting worked up. So all those lines fell flat like the asses. And, thank you, Steve. And so I just think there needed to be a different setup for that part of it to work for me. Like maybe Bowen's really into the flat bottom exercises and Ego's judging him. Maybe like Heidi's character is a member of the class demanding that there be some like specific flat ass exercises, something like that, just to make that make more sense. But ultimately, there's some really, really great physicality here, very funny lines. I think it just needed another like logic pass on it. Steve, am I just overthinking this?
A logic pass could work. Yeah, maybe some of the world building had some plot holes and what have you. But yeah, I was one of the people who heard about some of the technical difficulties. I hear the camera was basically never pointing at the right place at the right time.
Right, very rarely.
Yeah, so is it fair to judge Saturday Night Live on its, cleaned up versions of the sketch? Clearly it did not go that well when it was live. But that's the version I watched, and that version was very fun for me, and it was a great visual gag that I think the girls played up really well, and I had a lot of fun with it. It looked like it hurt a little bit
Yeah, that's my whole thing about the sketch. Is I once Chloe and Heidi got out there, I immediately was just like, they have to be in the most pain
Yeah.
I've ever seen because they're wearing constricting pants.
Yeah.
So I do want to like kind of clean up this part of the discussion with some patron feedback that we got from Grace Kogan, which says, I'm loving all of the Heidi content so far. She had big shoes to fill and is doing an outstanding job. I hope we see even more of her and the Heidi Chloe duos in the future. 100% agree. I feel like Heidi is soaring, and I think this pairing in this sketch, Heidi Chloe, and then their weekend update feature together was amazing. They have great chemistry together. And I, in the first episode, we saw a good Heidi Ego duo sketch, which I also love. But yeah, any thoughts on we'll get into fully like repertory players later, but like, did y'all think Heidi and Chloe were working really well together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like a relationship on par with maybe Cecily and 80. I'm getting vibes of that kind of partnership. Yeah, I feel like they've really found something in each other that elevates the both of them.
Yeah, I think Heidi's also just a good sketch partner, you know?
Yeah.
So is Chloe too, but like Heidi even more so, I feel like really knows when to like let the other person get a laugh.
Yep.
Not that Chloe doesn't, but it's just like Heidi will tee up the ball easier, and it's so much clearer where you. So
I mean, Heidi's a generous human and thus a generous performer. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well let's talk about another sketch from Megan Thee Stallion. Look, there's a deer right by the pine tree between the two rocks. Just follow my point. Steve, this is your pick. Why'd you land on this one?
Why? I don't know. Just wanted to talk about it. Just wanted to say a couple things. Honestly, I think you guys picked my choices, and then I moved on to this one. But hey, I just had some really raw fun with this, and it was very uncomplicated. It was just a silly sketch with a silly idea, and I'm just a sucker for the poorly designed puppetry and hasty photoshopping. I think all of those, those unpolished elements always add to the humor of these types of sketches. And after the loss that we've had, isn't it nice to just have a sketch where Keaton just really leans on, his ability to steal a scene? Because after everything that we've gone through, that we can all agree we still have
After the
held
war.
on. Yes.
Yeah.
We still have Keaton's magic to, even if you hate everything else that's left over, we still have that. You could tell everybody was having fun. I mean, this is just such primal stuff. This is what they do in kids shows. It's behind you. Like it's the most basic thing. And you could tell everybody was having, even like Megan Thee Stallion is like trying not to bust up at this. And every line she's grinning from ear to ear. And yeah, it was just nice to see everyone just enjoying themselves and having a good time.
That's fair. I'm glad it was working for someone because it wasn't working for me. But listen, comedy is so subjective. If I hate an episode, I guarantee you it's my mom's favorite. So, I'm glad you like this. I just don't think there's like a lot to work with here, and like clearly, like you said, they were having a really good time with it, but it just didn't carry over for me. Like I felt when they were doing the point thing, I felt like I was on the Manning cast saying, "Oh no, is he trying to make this a catchphrase?"
There was she repeated it 3 times, slower and slower.
They did it so long. But yeah, I mean, they found good ways to add on, like, oh, there's a bunny on top of it now it's inside. So like, there's some fun to be had. But ultimately, yeah, like I don't think this wasn't a standout for me. Patrick, where are you gonna land?
Closer to the middle. I really love the puppet. The puppet was funny. I love the CGI, not CGI, the photoshopped rabbit on top. But yeah, this was just Keenan being Keenan, and it was it's kind of like seeing Barry Bonds hit a home run. It's like, oh, what that's how easy he makes it look. Just him every time going, what? Huh? Just it makes me laugh. I've been watching this man since I was
messing with me.
Yeah, since I was a child, I've been watching this guy, and he has been doing that kind of reaction, and it is so funny every time. So yeah, it was great in the sense that I don't think it's gonna be the most memorable sketch of the year, but it wasn't unwatchable, which
Fair enough. Which some of them can be. So
well, some of them can be, yeah.
Yeah, if that's your bar, this passed it. All right, well, let's talk about your pick then, Patrick. This substitute teacher believes in you. She's proud of you. And no, she does not know that this is a STEM school. So, why'd you pick it?
Because it's genius. It is such a real sketch. What I really loved about this, and what I loved about this episode as a whole, is that it really got to feature a lot of their POC like players and stuff like that. I went to a school that was 95% African American Hispanic, and I had a Spanish teacher, and I want to say about 70% of the school spoke Spanish or was at least bilingual. I had a Spanish teacher who was teaching the class Portuguese, and we would tell her that that's Portuguese, and no one believed us. And months went by, 8 months went by, and we kept saying like, oh, she's teaching us Portuguese, and no one believed us until finally the principal walked in, and he looked at the board and went, well, that's Portuguese. And we're like, we've been saying that forever. So like this sketch hit home real hard, because just that when she comes in with like, I'm coming in with my predetermined notions of like what you guys are, and then just fact that she not only talked down to these kids, but was just an idiot, was so much fun. But her punching out the fire alarm at the end and go, students, and it's like, that was great. That was very, very funny. Yeah.
I feel like that fire alarm was like too neatly placed. Like it was like Chekhov's fire alarm.
Like, as soon as she walked in, I was like, oh, that's the thing.
That's getting cool.
Yeah. Now we know how the sketch is ending.
Yeah, I think this was a highlight of the episode for sure. Amazing performance from Ego, and just such a funny idea. Because I don't always love it when the game is a misunderstanding, but this one really paid off because, like you said, Pat, they capitalized not just on the teacher was misinformed, but also she's just an idiot. Like she's just a stupid person. So I think there were good performances from the students as well, and I actually think this was some of Megan Thee Stallion's best work. A perfect delivery of "Ma'am, my name is Amy."
That was so funny.
So good.
Yeah.
My biggest note is I actually just think the ending's kind of weak. I think her hitting, like pulling the fire alarm is kind of funny, but then there was the second with the door, and then it sort of just like did the fade out thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like there could have just been a really good punchline ending to this, and it would have just been a little neater.
Literally break glass to end sketch.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is in every writer's room.
Steve, do you have any thoughts on this one?
This is what was brilliant about this sketch. It took advantage of a certain conditioning that's happened to people who've consumed modern media that they might not have been aware of. And that's part of the brilliance here, is that it's making you aware of it. But maybe you watched this sketch and was so familiar with this image of a classroom full of black people being talked down to this way. Like, maybe that's so normalized in your film and television viewing that you don't even question. And like, you're like, why does this feel familiar to me? Why is this a trope that I can recognize right away? That's what it challenges you to think when it, reveals that this woman has actually made a whole bunch of assumptions and doesn't realize where she is at all. And it kind of turns everything on its head. And he's like, huh, maybe I should have questioned why I thought it was okay to see this. And why did more hairs raise up on the back of my neck at this this clear abuse of power dynamic. But yeah, this was a great way of taking that trope, showing you what the toxicity of it might be, and what we can learn from realizing that. So yeah, I think it was progressive, smart, and funny at the same time. It wasn't just clapter; it was genuine laughing with a with a good message.
We love to see it. And on that
we
note,
love to see it. Look at Patrick's
now. Let's take a little zoom out. Let's talk about this run of 3 as a whole. I've got a few categories to go through here, and the first 2 categories are about our players. So I want to set it up with some feedback we got on Twitter from Travis Kemp, who says, the sketches this season so far have been hit and miss. I think the cast maybe is a bit lost since Kate, 80, Kyle, Pete, Chris, and Melissa left. However, I've been enjoying the new cast members' commentaries on Weekend Update. So just like kind of keep that in mind as we talk about these the featured players and the repertory players. So up first, we'll talk about the featured players. And I think they're all off to really strong starts. 3 of the 4 have had update features, and Molly had an entire pre-tape centered around them. Now, my feelings on each of those features vary a little bit. I think, to me, Marcelo had the strongest, most original update bit. His content felt like it showed his specific point of view really well, and he performed it expertly. Whereas Devin's, I thought, was a little shaky. I thought his nerves came through a little more. Which was interesting because I saw him audition at Asylum and did some of these bits and didn't seem nervous then. Obviously they're both a high stakes situation, but one of them is a little bigger. So he was amazing in that audition. So hopefully we get to see him come back and shake those nerves a little bit. But yeah, I think they all had pretty solid starts, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep it up. Steve, what's your assessment so far?
Agreeing with you so far. Definitely felt that Devin was kind of tight-chested and short of breath. Definitely some nervous energy there. I mean, he didn't crash and burn, so to speak, but there's some grass on his knees. So it's a bit of an experiment. It feels like somebody decided, some producer said, we're going to spend the first 4 episodes giving each of the 4 new cast members a spot on Weekend Update. Because I don't know, it's working out very cleanly one by one, if that's not actually the case. Quite the coincidence. But yeah, I mean, Michael and Marcelo's were my favorite too. But I think Marcelo's, in terms of originality and having a voice, that was the best one. Michael seemed a little bit more like a sizzle reel of his stand-up. Kind of a little bit all over the place, and ADD is like, what? We're talking about how rich people tell you to take their heads off them now? Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's been great. Molly's obviously had a special part in their little pre-tape there. They were obviously the main focus of that. Everybody had jokes to say, but I think Molly's bit was what really brought that all together.
Yeah, so there is some interesting things I've seen batted around online that all 4 of these people auditioned purely stand-ups, and then they're kind of getting these little Weekend Update features, and I wonder, some people have sort of batted around is this them trying to figure out bring in a new update host? I don't know if there's really any merit to that, but interesting thought, I guess. Patrick,
Yeah.
how are you feeling about the repertory the featured players?
I thought honestly a little underwhelmed by all of them. I don't think they got. I don't think like everyone got a moment to like have their little standout moment, but no one blew me away where I'm like, oh, that. Except I would say Molly is very funny. I don't think they've gotten like anything to do since or before. I think that's like the only thing that I'm like, oh, that's Molly in a sketch. Everything else they've just kind of either been in the background or just not in the show. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I will say I like Michael's set, but I've also seen Michael do stand up, so like I just know that he kind of just did stand up. I think it's why I kind of gravitated towards Molly, because at least they were doing a sketch, and at least it felt like more of a sketch. So
Yep.
I do think there's merit to the idea of like, are they just trying to find a new Weekend Update person? Because I mean, like Colin Jost can't be there forever. You know,
Right.
he's got his deal with Satan is coming up soon, and he has to get that soul out of there. The second Colin leaves, Michael Che's not going to stay around, because I don't think Michael Che has keys to the building. To be completely honest, he needs to be let in. So, you know, I'm lukewarm on the new featured players.
On that note, I will say some more feedback from Reddit. Miss Brisby echoed that enjoyed the new cast members on Update, but asked, do you think that will continue the rest of the season or taper off midway with someone being shut out for screen time? I think it's hard to say if anyone's going to be shut out. I think we'll absolutely taper off. I think this was like a generous let's have the audience meet our new people, and they're not going to be guaranteed those slots.
Yeah, I think the idea
absolutely.
that they'll be shut out, it's not something you hope, but it's something that always happens. You know, I can't say like, oh, I think Michael's going to get shut out, or I think
Right.
Devin's going to be shut out. I just, it's one of those weird things where you just kind of never know. It's too early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone did terrible where I'm like, oh, we're not going to see that person again. And I don't think anyone did so well where I think we're going to see that person every week. There isn't a Bowen in the bunch, where like first time you see Bowen, it's like, oh, Bowen's going to be in everything, And then one of these might be like someone like Andrew Mukes, who like slowly over a few weeks, you start seeing him more and more until the point where it's like, oh, he stole the show this week because of X, Y, and Z.
Steve, what do you think?
What do I think? I think it's too early to tell, but you made a good point there. This is the one and only thing that they'll absolutely get handed over if we're right about this being a predetermined thing to give them each a weekend update spot. But yeah, at this point, what could we say to any level of education on how people are going to do? There's no way to make an educated guess, I think, at this point.
Well, let's talk about our repertory players then. Monette Morady on Twitter said the show is clearly trying to push a star in Chloe or Heidi when it should just focus on being an ensemble, especially during a rebuilding year. I'll say I don't know. I disagree.
So do I. Yeah.
I think it's been a really fun season to watch. I think seeing Bowen and Heidi and Ego in particular have an amazing start has been great. They're the first team quarterbacks now. I'm loving it. We're getting more Dismukes in the mix. I actually think it feels more ensemble-y. Even with like, I think there are clearly a few senior players getting a lot of screen time, which they deserve because they did a lot of time under the Kate 80 Cecily show. But I think that there is more breathing room in it. Like I said, Dismukes is getting more time. We've had these featured players show out. Sarah Sherman's getting sketches. It's still a huge cast, but for whatever reason, it does feel like markedly different. I'm feeling an ensemble energy, but like I said, with a couple people standing out, which I think is how the show works, and I think that's fair. And I would have been disappointed if I didn't see like Heidi and Ego really stepping up. So, Patrick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm glad that Ego's getting more. She's definitely getting her own sketches to run, which are great. We're letting Sarah be as weird as possible, which is where she's strongest. I feel like, especially last season was her first season, right? Yeah. was Sarah's first season last season or
Yes.
the year before?
Yeah.
So like last season they were trying to pigeonhole her into like regular sketches where it's just like, and she'd flounder because she needs to be in crazy sketches. So we get eyes, we get stuff like that where like she gets to get crazy with it and it works great. I can understand why they think they're trying to push Chloe and Heidi, but I think it's more because Chloe and Heidi can fit into any kind of mold easier, especially Heidi, where like Heidi could do a character sketch and just be the straight man. Like, and Chloe, I feel like we almost the same, where like with Chloe, like you can make Chloe can do a character, but if you just need Chloe to just be the one introducing the lines, you know, she's doing what 80 was often given, and or Cecily, but yeah, I feel like overall, like if anyone's getting pushed to like the front of the stage, it's definitely Bowen. But if we're going to be completely honest, that's been happening for the last 3 years. They've been pushing Bowen because Bowen is a star and is going to ride the fucking rocket to the moon and then build a colony on the moon, and then people will move to the moon, and that's what I assume will happen. I lost my way there with the metaphor.
Not as beautiful as Steve Sandcastle metaphor.
Yeah. I tried to
I'm
be
the
as
metaphor guy,
elegant.
okay?
Yeah.
We come to
Steve,
you with,
give us a
for the
metaphor.
Marvel and the comics. You do that.
Yeah. I'll talk about the comic. Give us a good metaphor about Bowen. What's Bowen? Well, paint us a picture.
Oh, you know, he's like he's going to go to the moon and he's going to build a colony there.
Oh, damn it!
plagiarized.
God.
Gotcha.
Man, it sounded better when Steve said it, though.
Yeah, it's something coming out of that folksy Canadian mouth of yours. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It sounds better.
Steve, metaphors aside, how are you feeling about our repertory players?
Oh, doing great. You know, yes, maybe some players are coming out with a little extra screen time. I do feel an ensemble kind of feel going. But hey, if you need any more proof than this on who they got their sights on as like the stars of the show right now, just look at who introduces musical guests who are also hosting. Too busy to introduce themselves. I mean, who did they get to interview Megan Thee Stallion? Keenan, of course, but who else?
Oh,
The B to the Y. So, yeah, I think, you know, we have gotten enough time with the semi-newer cast members that are still left over here that we still have some very good friends on the cast for all the changing that's happened. I feel like they've kept up with the hiring and done such a good job with it over the years that we've just built a good base to continue rebuilding from.
Now, Miss Brisby on Reddit also asked, whose screen time do you think will be most affected by Cecily's return? Which I do think is an interesting question.
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
That's a good question too. I don't know who's really doing anything that Cecily does. I mean,
I would say maybe Heidi.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But Heidi and Cecily have shared time on the show for years now. I never felt like I was getting Cecily treading over anything that Heidi could have potentially done, or vice versa. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I feel like there's just a hole ready to be like filled right away when Cecily comes in.
I'm not really worried about it. I think because I don't think. Look, I love Kate and 80. I love Kate and 80 duos, but I don't think Cecily has anything that can just like that takes over the show in quite the same way. That like if Kate McKinnon were coming back next week, I'd be like, well, yep, you know, Heidi and Chloe's screen time is really going to hurt. Like, I don't think Cecily is that same type of performer. And obviously there's only so much time on the show. So obviously like there will be screen time diminished, but I don't think Cecily's going, I don't see her coming in and it looking drastically different.
I'm not going to lie to you. I forgot that Cecily was coming back.
Same, because she's not in the credits.
Because she's not in the credits, and she's
too.
not. So it's like a thing of just like, oh, that's right. She she's coming back. And honestly, it's a little. I think, I think it's best for both parties if she doesn't come back. I think it's kind of a step backwards for her at this point because she has a pretty well received show on Apple TV, and this could probably lead to more theater stuff because I saw the Woman Alone in the Universe, the Lily Tomlin play that she did.
Search for Signs of Intelligent
Life. That's what. And it was fantastic. She was incredible. So I kind of like, I don't know if she needs an SNL, and I don't think SNL needs her. I think SNL doesn't need Cecily. I feel like, and I don't think it's gonna, like, when she comes back she's gonna be like wedged in, but I definitely think it's gonna be a moment of like, oh, okay, well, she's just back and doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a step backwards for both parties.
All right, well, that's all we've got to really talk about the players. Let's talk about the writers. Steve, what do you think of the writing as a whole so far?
Writing seems interesting. I mean, I'm not super happy with a lot of things. I feel like premises are getting rushed. Premises? I feel like they are, like they're chopping down things for time that kind of make the sketches a little awkward. And I feel
like the pre-tape last week, the sweatshirt one. That was at a weird point in the show and was chopped down so much that I was kind of wish they had saved it for a different week.
Right.
Yeah.
And like there's things that are just not feeling like that CNN sketch about the Try Guys. Like they cut out so much, like it didn't even feel like a convincing news story. Like what Akers just says, "Welcome to CNN. I'm so and so. Here's a reporter." Like, don't you introduce the story?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this part? I just feel like sketches are kind of coming in bloated, I think, and then they're getting in a very unorganic way chopped down. And
so just from a pure the pure perspective of not even like the jokes are good or bad, just like the setup of how the sketch is being done and the dialogue is feeling like inorganic to you.
It's feeling a little inorganic, yeah. And I feel like when they feel like they need to trim fat, they're jumping to specific places and taking it from those places where they could be a little bit more even in doing that.
Yeah, I think the last two episodes in particular, I think, had a lot of very strong premises that were not always executed very fully or very well. Like something like the Megan Thee Stallion, the hospital sketch, very funny idea, got repetitive really quick.
Yeah.
Didn't really heighten, didn't really go anywhere with it. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they came out of the gate in that Miles Teller episode with like all their best ideas from the summer, and then it like fizzled out a little bit. But they always knock off the rust, get their legs about them. Like I don't think the writer's room, I'm not like fire them all or anything, but like I do think there was some weak writing in this run. Pat, what did you think?
I think it's indicative of the writing that there have been 2 new Please Don't Destroy sketches, and we have not brought them up yet at all because I think they're the weakest ones they've done. The 2, of course,
I can't even remember one of them.
Well, there's one of them where it's they're not really themselves, and it's not like a meta commentary. It's they are high schoolers.
Yeah.
And Brendan Gleeson is just an old man.
My mom loved it.
I thought, no, it's a very funny sketch, but it didn't feel like a Please Don't Destroy sketch.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it's a sketch that I could have seen 20 years ago and still been like, it's fine. And then the one they put last week was pretty awful. Like, it was just a bad sketch. Like,
I like that one.
Oh, well, I disagree.
Did you know you could delete money?
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. But it just, I don't know. It's just, I got so excited to see Please Don't Destroy sketch, and then both times we're kind of like, it's just not. It's not.
Yeah,
it's
I feel
not
like
there.
that. Like what Steve just did moments in that sketch, very funny.
Overall,
meh. Like
Yeah.
any specific joke is a good joke, but like didn't add up to being a great sketch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's where I feel like this whole season's been, where it's like funny moments, but like overall there's no sketch where it's like this stands out for the rest of the season. Where
Yeah.
I'm gonna be talking about this. Like one early on last season that I can give example is that the suit sketch with that like that was I think maybe the third episode the first time they did that, and it's so funny, and they keep it, and like that's something where like for the rest of the season I'm like that's one of the highs for me. But there's and I mean like the Please Don't Destroy from last season too, like the first couple times you have a Please Don't Destroy sketch last season was pretty great, but it's just not nothing writing wise has been standing out.
I will say the Please Don't Destroy guys have their hands in a lot of other sketches that aren't like specifically Please Don't Destroy sketches. Alex English seems to be getting a lot on. One thing I'm a little disappointed with is that there's one of the new writers that has not gotten anything on yet, and that's Sierra O'Sullivan, who I was really excited about because I saw her audition and I thought she was just a brilliant character performer. She's got like great stuff on TikTok and Instagram, and I just like know that she can like knock a Weekend Update character out of the park if she can like write one and get one on. So like it is a little disappointing to see that from like if we look at because I look at the writers similar to how I look at like the featured players. Like I want to see what the new people are bringing. Jimmy Fowley, on the other hand, just came in ready to go out of the gate. He got like Workout Class, the Caribbean Queens, the Hocus Pocus moms. Those are like he had a hand in all of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I do think when I look at the list of like who wrote what, it does feel a little bit more spread out than last season. Like last season, I feel like I was seeing the same 5 writers on everything, whereas this season, I do feel like there's more voices getting on the show, which is a great thing. But yeah, maybe some of it's working, some of it's not. All right, well, let's talk about the musical guest. Do we have anything of interest to add to the musical guest discussion? I thought Kendrick Lamar was the best of the bunch. I thought he came in with very unique productions. Like I loved the lighting effects of his first song and how like it turns out the shadow was not a shadow. And then in the second song with the room shrinking, I thought those were both like really cool. Those were really fun to watch. That's really all I have to say about any of the 3 of them. I don't think I'm the target audience. So, anything to add, fellas?
I love Willow.
All I want to say is that Willow rocked a little harder than I expected. Like she was full on screaming during that last song. Real hardcore stuff.
Cool. And I'll say Travis Kemp on Twitter said, I also think that SNL should book more jazz musicians. Okay. Personal preference, that's great. I think they got to go with what's drawing the viewers, but sure.
I will say, though, you left out one of the names that he gave as example. John Batiste would be perfect. And I think John Batiste is a big enough name because John Batiste is like, he's like an award away from getting EGOT, and he's always on Colbert, but he's such an incredible performer. I'm surprised they haven't had John Batiste on because also he had some songs of the summer this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if later in the season we get John Batiste.
Jeez.
Man, maybe he shows up. Maybe Travis Kemp's dreams come true.
I think he's taking care of his wife right now, who's a little sick.
Oh, you're right. He's taking a step back.
That's why he left the Late Show. So
Yeah.
I'd say that would be a factor for now, unfortunately.
Yeah, hopefully someday.
But we wish
soon.
them the best.
Now we have one more patron question to kick around before we get to our ratings. That's Ronald Burgess on Patreon says, it seems like when a host has a new movie or TV show coming out, SNL rarely does a sketch about it anymore. Do you know why this is? Some of my favorite sketches have been that kind, like Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison in the Heaven Supergroup sketch. Is there a certain type of sketch from the past you would like to see return? So yeah, kind of 2 questions in one. Patrick, what do you think?
Well, to answer that first part, I do agree. I was surprised they didn't do a Top Gun sketch. Mm-hmm. I was really expecting a Top Gun sketch, and they didn't do it. Because I feel like Megan Thee Stallion isn't promoting a movie, and Brendan Gleeson's, movie is it's an Oscar bait film. They're not the
parody
Midwest.
of that movie was Running Around the Row, and they already did it. So.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Exactly. So
Don't go running around
I will say I'm super surprised they did not do Top Gun. Like I thought that was like an easy. It was the biggest movie of the year. A sketch that I genuinely miss is I kind of miss commercial parodies. I feel like we haven't had that many commercial parodies lately. And when we do, they're always for medicine. Where I miss, I miss gay beer, like from the 90s or, or even like an infomercial sketch, something like that. Or, just that kind of, definitely kind of, that kind of, like just parodying something like a commercial. Because now it's all medicine, and I feel like it's easy hitting for when you're doing like a medicine ad.
Steve, anything to add on this patron question?
I don't know. I'm trying to keep my mind open because we have all this new talent, and who knows what they're going to be able to bring. And I don't want to set any expectations for that. I'm just happy to see what happens, and I'm sure it'll give me some new favorites. Yeah, I don't know if I have much to say about why they would deviate from doing movie parodies and things that are related to the host like that. I guess that's not where the inspiration is right now, or maybe getting rights to those things are more complicated than it used to be. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
That's a really good point.
Yeah, but as long as we don't see more like finance bros sketches and things a little more inspired, that's all I'd really like to see is just a little more originality. Lean into your Sarahs and your Bowen Yangs and the ones that have really unique voices, and let's see how we can develop that into maybe some new tropes that people come to expect over the next 50 years. Yeah. Let's create some new traditions.
God, he just puts it so delicately. I love when Steve talks.
I had something to add to that discussion, but I'm not going to do it now because that was such a beautiful way to wrap it up.
Oh, yes, it was.
All right. Well, let's talk about these ratings real quick and let's get out of here. Up first is the most memorable moment. Patrick, what is it?
My most memorable moment is when in Molly's sketch or pre-tape about the new cast members, she took a moment to say they, them. I thought that was so freaking great. It was such a fun throwaway part too, where they were like, I'm being kidnapped, and they go, get her in the car, and I have to be like, no, actually, it's they, them, but I don't think this is appropriate time. Right. It's so funny, it's so great.
My most memorable moment goes to the first person, and I do think it was Michael Longfellow, who stood up and did the salute in the AMC sketch, because I was like, yes, that's the moment where I said this is going exactly where I wanted it to. That's mine. Steve, what's yours?
I was thinking about picking the eyeball reveal. Not this eyeball reveal, but the eyeballs from the pockets, the real
Pocket
eyeballs. The realization dawning on her. And the more I think about it, I think that's what I want to be my moment. Because my other moment I'm thinking about is my name is Grimace and I'm a bisexual man. Yep. Let's give it to the Grimace bisexual reveal.
Very good. Let's talk about the standout sketch. Patrick, what is it?
I was actually going to pick that the McDonald's sketch, the Grimace sketch. For me, it was stand out because I very rarely do we get, maybe once a season now, we get a big weird costume sketch. And last season it was probably like the Beauty and the Beast sketch, when Will Dafoe hosted. But yeah, I really enjoyed that sketch. I thought it was really funny, and I have seen that joke now online a dozen times of the "I'm a proud bisexual man." Please don't bring that up again. Listen, like that. It's very funny. So yeah, that was definitely my standout.
My standout's the Manning cast cold open. I thought it was just so original, so creative, so high energy. It was a really, really, really solid start to the season, and one that I was like, I think that was one of the few where I was like, "Ugh, I can't wait to watch that on YouTube. Like, I can't wait to see it again." So yeah, Steve, what's your standout sketch?
That's what I'm doing too. Is giving it to that one because it's the one sketch so far that I can like look at all of the previous seasons and say there was nothing like that. Like this is something that feels truly fresh. And there's definitely some very stale moments of these first three episodes where I'm just like, wow, we're going there, are we? But yeah, that didn't happen with this opening sketch. It felt like new ideas, and it really did a good job of giving the first moments of some of the new cast members. And yeah, it utilized, our relationships with older cast members and how we've gotten to know them. And yeah, just when you think about everything we've had so far, this just feels like the most special thing.
All right, let's do these next two rapid fire. You ready? Patrick, best host.
Miles Teller.
Steve, best host.
Miles Teller.
Katherine, best host. Miles Teller. Patrick, best musical guest.
Willow.
Steve, best musical guest.
And Willow.
Katherine, best musical guest. Kendrick Lamar. Great. Good opinion, Katherine. Way to differentiate yourself. All right, let's talk MVP of the run. Patrick, who is it?
Heidi Gardner.
All right,
Oh,
Steve.
are we still doing rapid fire?
I like it. But no,
Okay,
you can
great.
talk about it.
No. Heidi Gardner. I agree. She has been a real standout in the last few episodes. I feel like she is, not to say that she's being pushed to become the forefront of the sketches, but she's definitely filling the shoes of like a seasoned member of the cast, and she's filling them very nicely. She's great. I love to see her.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think Heidi, Ego, Bowen all have great times, but I think I feel like Heidi's been at the forefront of each of these episodes, just having great moments, leading sketches, being in a lot of sketches, and just stepping up like the true pro she is. Heidi. Steve, what about you?
I want to give it to Bowen because just right off the bat, Bowen has been leading the charge, and SNL feels a little bit different now. But for the most part, it's different in a good way. And Bowen is just seems to be just leading more into this role that I've seen him carve out for himself. And it's been great, he brought that whole Maury vibe to Weekend Update. I've never had that kind of energy really coming from Weekend Update. There's been so much great stuff and so early in the season. And I feel like Bowen he's the juices are flowing. He's got the creative tap on, and we're gonna see some great stuff from him. I think that's the one that stood out to me. Mr. Bowen Yang, my fave.
Solid pick. All right, we've got a new scale. So everybody listen up and listen close. On a scale of must-see TV, Sunday morning Hulu, catch the highlights on YouTube, or Saturday Night Dead, how would you rate these 3 episodes? Patrick.
Catch the highlights on YouTube for me. I feel there's some very funny sketches, but nothing strong enough. And there are just some weak sketches that aren't bad, but just you can miss them and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to agree. Catch the highlights on YouTube. There's some great stuff here. There's some shareable stuff here. And then there's some things that we've even talked about where it's like, I don't need my friends to see that. I'm not going to be quoting it at them. You can miss it. There's some cold opens that I didn't think were great. So yeah, I think there's, I can think of like 5 really solid sketches that you should watch on YouTube.
5 is generous, to be honest.
Steve, where you landed?
First of all, are we already dated with this new rating system? Because I believe Sunday morning Hulu. It should be.
It's Peacock
now. It's Peacock now, right?
Oh, that's
wow.
right.
We blew it right out of the bat.
What was I going to say? I think Catch the Highlights on YouTube describes it well, even literally in some cases. Because like if there's some sketches you want to see properly, you can't watch them live because they didn't work out so well. So yeah, catch the YouTube of like the butt workout sketch, because that's pretty much the only version watchable. But yeah, there was just some great sketches to watch here, but a lot of stuff in between that was missable. If I didn't watch SNL so religiously, I don't think it would be as much of a loss to miss some of these sketches. But I'm glad I caught something out of each one. So,
all right. So, highs and lows, mountains and valleys in these 3 episodes, which isn't unusual. I think that's part of the show's DNA and part of what makes it great. So thank you guys for joining me. This was a fun discussion.
Thank you.
Before we go, Patrick, I think you've got a show coming up that you probably want to promote.
I've got a ton to promote. Thank you for asking. If you guys are in the New York City area, November 3rd, I am going to start doing Drunk Dungeons and Dragons, where if you've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, fine, come. We're going to get drunk, and we're going to basically roll dice and fight monsters at Five Boroughs Brewery at 7 p.m. on November 3rd. But most importantly, Katherine and I have been talking about a sketch show that we're doing. I work for a nonprofit called Broadway Bodge, which helps plus-size performers play the parts they want. And they are producing a sketch show of all fatties called Funny Fat Friends at Good Judy in Brooklyn, New York on November 10th. Tickets are on sale now. Follow us at Fun Fat Friend Comedy on Instagram for tickets. And Catherine's in the show. I'm in the show. It's
playing
great.
Willy Wonka in the show.
I wrote a whole sketch for
thrilled
Katherine
about
to play Willy Wonka. It's great.
I have never been more honored in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
Great. Well, you just missed my big show if you're listening to this, but that's okay. The highlight, the pre-tape from my show called the Marvel ASPCA ad, which Patrick is in, is available on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you get your videos. You can find this if you find me at Katherine is Funny or at Katherine Funny. It's great. It's an ASPCA ad, but for people who don't like Marvel movies, because we're sick of it. All right, and now I'm working on a new version of it for Patrick. That's an ASPCA ad, but for people who are sick of hearing about Taylor Swift. I've already written half of it. So watch this one, so you'll get the next one. I put a lot of work into making this like very high quality, so I would love it if you could watch.
It looks real. I will say it looks like real ASPCA ad. The camera work is insane. It was all a little behind the scenes. It was all Katherine. Behind the camera, you had a dolly that you got. It was pretty crazy. It was a lot of. I was very impressed when I walked into a rented space and then saw you with a dolly that you had put together. I was like, oh shit, okay, we're not just doing bit stuff. All right, well.
Okay, well, Steve, I hope you keep healing well.
Yes, well, this is my first. This is my last podcast with braces. They'll be coming out very soon.
Oh,
exciting.
Go back to giving blowies.
That's the first thought I had.
Great. I'm so glad that we're ending the podcast on that note, and that is a wrap. Thanks to Steve Finn and Pat Riley. And thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Grace Kogan, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow, and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back in November to discuss SNL's next run of shows. But until then, this has been episode number 165 of the Saturday Night Live After Party podcast. I'm Katherine Coleman. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.